Hey there, friends. It's your favorite buyer's agent, Andrew Sheffield with Keller Williams Realty. Thanks for watching the Asheville Buyer Bootcamp YouTube channel. Today's episode is on the costs of home buying. So I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, and most of which are very overwhelmed when they enter the Asheville buying market immediately. They see that prices are increasing very steadily. They see competition. Houses that just come on the market, boom, they're snapped up really quickly, go under contract. And so I feel like a lot of buyers are very timid about getting involved. That's why I've created this video and more like it to come. So most of my buyers that I work with, especially first-time home buyers, are most concerned with the costs associated with purchasing a house. And it's a pretty significant amount of money, likely the most that you'll ever spend on anything in your lifetime, especially this first one. And so to kind of take some of that mystery and pressure away, I've broken down the costs into 5 basic categories. So the most significant of which is where we're going to start, and that is your down payment. The first place you want to go to when you're ready to buy a house is your bank or your lender, and start discussing your finances. Figure out how much house you can really afford. And they're going to talk to you about down payment amount. Different loans are structured in different ways, some of which require very little to put down, sometimes as low as 3.5% of the total purchase price. And so just for easy numbers, let's say the purchase price would be $100,000. 3.5% of that is $3,500. So that should give you kind of a gauge of where you could start, and keep in mind that down payment percentage, that can be as high as 20%. So for that same $100,000 purchase, instead of $3,500, you could put $20,000 down. That's a significant amount of money. Most people, when they're buying the first house, they don't have $20,000. But that's okay. You need to talk with your lender about what you can afford. That's why it's really the best place to start. This is just to give you an idea of what to expect once you are pre-qualified. So after you've met with your lender and you're pre-approved, that's even better. You've gone under some of that paperwork already, the underwriting process, and you're ready to start looking at houses. Well, it's a very exciting time, but it can also be a little nerve-wracking because now you're going to be entering a very competitive market. Asheville and the surrounding areas have been increasing in popularity around the entire nation. The word's out, Asheville's hot. Everyone wants to be here, and that's a problem for people, especially the ones that grew up here, to buy their first house. They're competing with folks from out of state with cash, and it's tough. It can be really tough, but if you're smart and you're prepared, you can get the house you want. The second expense that's going to be associated with your home purchase is after you've been pre-approved for your loan, you've started to talk about your down payment with your lender, you're going to be ready to go out into the market and write offers, okay? And those offers aren't for free. You can't just write an offer on a house and expect a seller to get involved in a contract with you. You have to put some deposit money down. And so this deposit money is the second cost that you're going to want to anticipate. Typically, your deposit amount can be about 1% of the purchase price. So again, just for easy numbers, $100,000 house, $1,000 deposit. Now that deposit can be further broken down into a refundable amount and a non-refundable amount. Your refundable amount, typically that 1% like we talked about, that's for you to do all of your inspections and make sure you're satisfied with the house before moving forward and allowing that to become non-refundable. Typically about 30 days time. Now the second part of that is the non-refundable right up front. And this is considered kind of like a deal sweetener. This is optional, it's not required. In fact, many of the components of your real estate contract, they're all negotiable and you really can make it exactly the way you want it to be. But if you want to beat the other buyers, sometimes you need to put in that non-refundable deposit money. So again, it's deposit money. It's going to come out at the balance at the end of the transaction. You're not losing it. You're just paying for it up front. And in different markets around the Asheville area, let's just say West Asheville, for example, if a home comes on the market and it's priced correctly, it's going to get a lot of activity, a lot of showings, a lot of interest. And if you come across the house and you're with me, we're pre-qualified, we're ready to rock and roll, we've already known about all the expenses and we're ready to act, then you want to get the house, you might have to throw in a deal sweetener. That's where that non-refundable deposit money would come into play. But again, it's about 1%. So just keep that in mind. And each situation is different. Each house is different. These are just guidelines. So the third cost that you're going to want to anticipate when it comes to a real estate purchase is your inspection cost. And this is kind of up to the buyer. So when you're getting a loan, your lender is going to require certain things are done before they'll lend you the money. But there are other things that are optional that you can do to investigate the house. Sure, the lender is making you the loan, but you're going to be paying for it for the next 30 years. So you want to make sure you're getting a good house. And these different inspection costs can start to creep up on you just based on what you want to know about the house. There's going to be a general home inspection, but if the home is out in the country, it likely has a septic tank. Septic inspections can get expensive, in excess of $400. Then you're going to have things like radon gas. It's a naturally occurring gas that is emitted through granite rock. That's what house pads are built on, is that crushed granite. And so it's very common in this area. But that's an add-on expense to your home inspection, usually another $100. You can test for things like termites, your well water, asbestos, lead-based paint. The list goes on and on, but it's really up to the buyer. Whatever they need to know about the house before they feel comfortable moving forward, that's the time to investigate it. Because after you've gone past that usually 30 days of inspection period, it's too late. Now your deposit money that used to be refundable is now non-refundable and on the hook. So you got to be very careful. But anticipating those inspection costs is just so smart to just go ahead and put that in your mind now. And that can range typically between 1% and 2% of your purchase price. But again, it's up to you. Some people just do the bare minimum, what the bank requires them to do, and they kind of roll the dice on the rest. It's your prerogative, it's your house, it's your purchase. I'm just here to advise you in the best way to do so. Let's move on to the fourth cost of purchasing a home. And this category is called closing costs. Okay? Closing costs are just compiled different fees from the different service providers involved in the transaction. Namely, your attorney has to prepare all of the paperwork for your closing. They have to investigate the title. They have to make sure there's no liens or judgments against the property. They also have to make sure that all of the money is accounted for, and for this they require a fee. That is going to be added with the lender fee. The people who are writing the loan for you aren't doing that for free. They need to make some interest, and typically they ask for some right up front. It's called discount points, and it can be between 1 and 2% of the purchase price, or I should back up, the loan amount. So those discount points plus your lender fees, those added together, that's going to be the majority of your closing costs. But in addition to that, the lender is going to require that you have some money for the tax bill that comes out every year for your property taxes. They're going to require some of that money to be paid upfront to them. That way that bill, they make sure it gets paid. And depending on when you purchase in the year, those taxes can creep up on you. So those closing costs, again, they're going to be the lender fee, the attorney fee, and taxes. But also, there's going to be recording fees for your courthouse, recording the deed. And then if you're a part of a community, there'll be an HOA fee, usually a prorated fee. All of those bundled together, let's just say for a $200,000 house, is probably going to be somewhere in the ballpark of $3,500 to $4,000 of closing costs. Now, this is the buyer's responsibility to take care of. However, the real estate contract is written in a way that you can ask the seller to pay for these costs for you. If you're tight on money, this is a great strategy. And lots of times, if you offer them higher of a purchase price, you can ask for these closing costs to be paid from their proceeds. So especially for first-time home buyers, it's a strategy we use quite often. It works out well, very well, because these costs start mounting up, and you want to have money left over for the fifth and final costs. And that's going to be any remodeling that you would like to do to the home after you purchase it, and the costs associated with moving. You know, nothing's for free anymore, and we all have these ideas of grandeur after watching the HGTV episodes about tearing out this wall or, you know, adding some funky flooring to the living room. those expenses come at a cost. And I just like to remind my buyers to be prepared for that. You know, if they're not going to be buying a brand new house and they want to buy something in their price range, it happens to be older, you know, think about any renovation